Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be looking at something very cool. Now recently the people over at AK Interactive got in touch with me and they basically asked me if I knew about their products, and I said yes. In fact I use them, so they said great, would you like to look at some bits and bobs? So they sent me these. So here you can see we have AK Interactive's first wargaming miniatures, the Fortunate Sons. This is the 101st Airborne, and the US Airborne Division D-Day paint set, which is made up of their 3G paints, and this is basically put together to allow you to paint up the 101st in their uniform, or as close as you can to, using everything that's in there. Now they've also sent me one of these ground paste. Now you know I like to use these, and they sent me the wet ground, which is great because I haven't used that one before. I imagine it'll be like some of the other wet grounds, and they then also sent me a very nice mug, which is very cool and will come in very handy. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to go through the Fortunate Sons kit and the paint set, show you what you get, assemble some of the figures and paint some of them up, and basically just give a bit of a review on the set. However, first of all, we've got to get something really important done first. Okay, now that's out the way, let's have a look at the actual box. So the Fortunate Sons comes with 10 wargaming miniatures in here. Now these are advertised as 30mm. We'll do a bit of a scale comparison later on. These are resin miniatures. They come in a very nice, almost display style box, and one of the cool things about this is that when you actually open it up and you have a look at the models on the inside, these compartments are all essentially big enough to hold them when they're put together, so you've almost got a pre-made carry case here. Each of the miniatures is resin and individually bagged with all of its components in one place, and everything is on a sprue. Now what I'll do here, I'll just show you the details on a couple of these and then I'll get them stuck together. As you can see, there is a high level of detail on here, which is something that I'm looking forward to having a go at. I don't paint as many World War II miniatures as I do medieval and ancients miniatures, so I'm always up for a challenge, and I've never painted up any American things for wargaming. Now, as these are resin miniatures, then they'll need a bit of a wash before we can work on them. So I'm just going to set these to one side and have a look at the paint set. Now this is, I'm probably more excited about the paint set than I am the models in the way, because I do like some paints. With the paint set you get a free miniature, which is the radio chap, and he's inside this little box here, so I'm just going to take him out and add him to the pile. He'll make a very nice command figure or an objective. Now all of the paints come in AK Interactive dropper bottles, and these dropper bottles hold 17mm as standard. Now there's no agitator in these bottles, but you can just add one in, and there's a really nice range of colours. We've got things like decomposed flesh, red brown, canvas tone, US dark green, brown black, green grey, essentially everything you're going to need to mix or create good base coats for the 101st. Now I'm going to be basing my colour scheme purely on the box art. I'm not going to go and look at anything else, and as far as possible I'm just going to try and paint the miniatures with the paints provided. Now, as I said previously, as these are resin miniatures, then it's worth giving them a bit of a clean first of all. I just use some warm soapy water and a soft toothbrush, and just give them a bit of a spruce up, and put them on some kitchen towel to dry. And I do this still while they're all on the sprue, because it just makes it easier for handling. Once they're completely dry, I'll then basically use super glue to stick these together and do any cleanup I need to do. Now here we are. Here you can see all 11, including the radio operator, and they're all stuck together. Now these were, I would say, fairly easy to work with. The majority of the pieces fitted together really well, and there was only a couple of miniatures where I actually had to sort of play around a little bit and try and work out the pose. Now I stuck these models together with super glue, and this resin bonded with the super glue really fast and really tightly. So some people may find it easier to position things first of all, maybe using some blue tack or some modeling putty first of all. Now the resin itself was really easy to clean up. There wasn't a great deal that needed doing. The resin itself does have a really nice bit of flex to it. Not enough that it seems brittle, but certainly more like a board gaming piece or something similar. Here you can see that flexibility just on the rifle. And to be fair, I don't mind a little bit of flexibility in my miniatures. It reassures me a little bit that if I do drop it, it might actually bounce. Now the cleaning up was very easy. I just used a craft knife to take off any mould lines or any sort of nubbins that were left from where I removed the model from its sprue. But overall, as you can see here, the sculpts are really clean and really detailed. There's a good variety of poses, from kneeling models to running models to models like this one that's throwing a grenade. This is one of the few that I had a little bit of an issue with the left arm throwing a grenade. It took me a couple of attempts to actually just work out which way to put it, because there are no instructions in the box, but to be honest, with a little bit of trial and error you can actually figure it out. Okay, so let's do a bit of a scale comparison. So on the left here you can see one of the Wargames Atlantic German Sentries. In the middle we've got one of the AK Interactive Fortunate Sons, and on the right here we have a Warlord Games Plastic German. Now just should say that you can see straight away that this model is a little bit larger than the Wargames Atlantic and larger than the Warlord Games model, though that is slightly crouched. However, it isn't as pronounced as I thought it was going to be. I'm not someone who really minds about using different scales. However, if you are dead set for using the same scale miniatures, then you know this might put you off slightly. However, I think again, 3 foot away on a table, no one's really going to notice. There is some more bulkiness to the limbs, but to be honest, I quite like that, and as you can see here, once undercoated, all of those details really come out. Now, as I'm just going to be using the paints that were provided in this paint set, I thought I'd just work off a black undercoat, which I don't really do anymore. I normally work off a Xenophil or just a white undercoat, so it's going to be a bit of an experience. So I'll come back to you once I've finished. Okay, so it's been a couple of days and I've completed the first 6 miniatures. I selected 6 to begin with because this is what I will need to play 0 to 100 hours, which is currently my favourite World War II game, and I've created a squad here that is that I can use in that game. So I've picked out a couple of weapons. So I've got some rifles, I've got some submachine guns, and of course I've got the leader with a pistol. Now, these were a lot of fun to paint. I don't paint World War II miniatures very often. It's not my main period of interest. However, these were a great deal of fun. And as I said, I've never painted any American stuff for World War II or the 101st. So I did find myself watching some Band of Brothers in the background as I was doing this. The paints themselves mix together really well. Now, obviously, I've been used to using contrast paints for a little while, and these are not like contrast paints at all. These are much more like traditional paints. There is really good pigmentation. You will need to thin these out. The good news is they mix together really well, and AK Interactive has some fantastic online guides on painting and how to thin their paints and use their weathering products. So this chap here, armed with the Thompson, was my test miniature, and he's probably one of my favourites, and I'm really pleased with him. It was a great deal of fun working on the gun, not using metallics, just using the graphite colours that were provided. Also, he's got a mohawk. That was fun as well. Now, I've got to own up, there were some areas where I didn't just use the paints that were provided, so I did cheat. That was only the flesh though. So there, I realised that of course all of these paints provided are just for the uniform and the weapons, and you'd have your own flesh concoctions. So what I did was I went back to a sort of a tried and tested formula for the flesh. So everything else on there has been done with the paints that come in that paint set, but not their faces and not their hands. Now, this chap with grenade, I was a little bit concerned about painting him because in the position that he's in, he's actually showing more of his uniform than anyone else, but I actually ended up really enjoying it. And something that I didn't realise when I was looking at these sculpts is that you do have the Airborne badge actually moulded onto the arms, and it is slightly recessed so you can get the details done. Now, this is the captain, the lieutenant. Now, this is probably the miniature that I'm not as happy with, but that's nothing to do with the sculpting or the mold. That's down to my paint job. I think I'm going to have to redo his face because he's come out looking a bit sort of, I don't know, shocked. The kneeling miniatures give you a really nice variety across your squad, and if you actually do take the time, you can really see that there's a lot of different things on their belts, like ammunition pouches, grenades. Now, I was using the wet mud that they supplied, that I decided I needed to sort of supplement that a little bit, and I used some water effect here so you can see he's sort of running and splashing through a puddle. So this is my first experience of the AK Interactive 3G paints, and I have to say I am impressed. Now, I'm not going to say that I used all the colours. I definitely didn't. Some of the brighter ones, and to me, a couple of them are, grey green and green grey are essentially the same thing, but they did work really well. They mixed together really well. However, would I call this a paint set for a starter? No, I wouldn't. This is the wet ground basing paste, and it was a great deal of fun to work with. It's very easy, and I find you get the best out of these pastes when you mix them with things like tufts and bit of leaf litter that, like you can see here, and like the tiny little bit of gloss varnish or water effect, just to add a little bit more to the models. So what are my feelings overall on the set and the paints? Well, I like them. I like the sort of graphic novel style, and I do like the slightly larger scale. However, I don't think these are going to be for everybody. If you are new to the hobby or you're a beginner of painting, then I would recommend that you probably start on something considered more standard before going on to models like this, which are a lot of fun, but you can be a bit more forgiving with other models. That being said, I think these are going to look awesome on the tabletop, and I can't wait to get them out and have them sneaking around a German base. A big thank you to the people over at AK for sending these over for me to have a look at. I've really enjoyed it, and what I'll do is I'll update when I've painted the other 5 as well. All the links for everything you've seen in here is down below, and as always, I'll leave up some pictures. In the meantime, I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you all again in the next one. Cheers.